Roger, thank you so much for coming on the AIM podcast.
Oh, thanks for the invite. All is blessed, my friends.
Let's go. I'm really excited about this episode. You bring a wealth of knowledge and a variety of topics, but specifically just overall health, wellness, biohacking, and just what it truly means to be a healthy person and a healthy human. Um, I'm really excited to talk about it, man. So thank you again for coming on, and this is going to be a great episode.
Oh, I look forward to it. Yeah, I think it should be cool.
You've done a lot of things in your life up to this point. I know you're not done yet. You've got a lot, I'm sure, goals and things you're working on, but man, just congrats on, everything you've done up to this point. It's been cool to kind of study a little bit about, your success in bodybuilding and fitness, and then obviously writing your book and your podcast, and you're doing a lot of things, but I think all of it has a very good thing and a very positive energy about it. And so I'm excited to kind of dive in.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's been a great journey, but there's so much more to do in life, and I'm just trying to do as much as possible. But it's all fun, you know. I think it's important to try and grab as many opportunities as we can before we die.
I love
We,
that.
we have no idea when our expiry date will turn up. So just do as much as you can until that point. So
Let's
that's me.
go. I love that philosophy. I love that mindset. I kind of want to bring it back to the very start, just to set the context here of you getting into fitness, and kind of what that looked like, and why you made that decision to start training, to start working out, and what it looked like for you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, fitness for me started off from a really young age when I had just a passion to sprint. So that was the beginning stage for me. I was a runner. It was 100 meters and 200 meter sprint. Yeah, it was one of those where, you play around as a kid, you play tag, see who can get who and who can run away from who. And I found that I was pretty good at running. So, with your friends, you chase each other around the block and see who's quicker. And I found that I was all right. So I decided to take it a little further to see if I could do small competitions. It first of all started off in school at sports day events, and then it started to become part of. I joined something called the Young Socialists, where it was a committee to help, I guess, underprivileged kids to keep them off the street and to get them involved in fitness. Where I lived, there was a lot of crime and a lot of madness that used to happen, and I used to get involved in some of the madness, and sprinting kind of kept me a bit more level-headed. So I was sprinting for London and in young socialist events and was competing in different boroughs. And it was really exciting for me. I used to watch athletics every year, and it was track and field events. And I used to want to emulate people like Linford Christie. He was like, don't know if you know Linford Christie, but he's a British 100 meter um, sprinter back in the 90s. And I used to think to myself, this guy is incredible. I want to be like him. So I used to watch all his interviews on TV. This was way before YouTube was around. And when I used to watch him, he used to just talk about his passion, and he also used to mention about his training regime. He said that he would hit the gym all the time, and I thought that if I was to just practice sprinting, that I would get better. I didn't know anything about lifting weights at the time. And then after he'd mentioned that, I started to kind of like be fascinated a bit more about him, that it wasn't just a case of just running up and down to see if you could get a better time. And when he would sprint and they would play the video back in slow motion, I then started to notice the ripples in his muscles as he was sprinting. And I was like, wow, I need weights. That's what I need. I need weights. So I remember I told my dad at the time that I would really love weights, and he bought me some weights at a pretty young age, really. This was actually before I started to compete as a teen. I was a bit younger, and so I had some baby weights, and I was using that to try and build up some sort of strength. I had no idea what I was doing. But as I started to get older, it's one of those things where just becomes a part of your daily routine, that you don't really notice much difference. And then as a teenager, a lot of my peer group were like, "You're starting to put on some muscle." But the vision that I had, I didn't actually see it myself. I was just like, no, I'm still a skinny teen, and I've got a long way to go. Um, but it was just quite interesting, really, because I started to get more and more compliments on the way I looked, but I still did not see it at all. I had a bit of a six pack, but the thing was, I didn't do it for anyone else. I just had a goal that I wanted to be like super fast. And with that, as I started to learn about what sprinters, diets, and just about keeping fit, I just got fascinated and obsessed with the idea of being like super fit. So I just had this idea that it would be great to be like the fittest person in the world. I was like, yeah, maybe I can do that. So, it was still a learning phase for me. I'd be, just trying to eat lots of fruits and vegetables, and eating lots of protein. And at the same time, I'll be taking lots of vitamin supplements. Even though I was eating lots of fruits and veg, I was still taking lots of vitamins as well, which I didn't need to do, but I was just doing it anyway. Any bit of pocket money that I had, I would use that pocket money to buy magazines. And I didn't get much pocket money, to be honest with you. Even into my late teens, I was getting like £1 a week. My dad, he didn't have much money. And I had to do like a paper route in order to get a bit more money. He would give me £1 a week. And in my paper route, I would get maybe another £7. So that to me, it was like, oh, I'm rich. As long as I can buy a magazine, that was like the Bible for me. I didn't need anything else. I've got weights and I've got a magazine. This is the Bible in how I can be the fittest person in the world. I didn't need anything else. I'd go out and I'd play with friends and stuff, but I'd spend a lot of the time just looking in these magazines and how I could become fitter. So that was sort of like the beginning stage for me, really.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. I appreciate you sharing that story. And I like how you talk about a couple things that stand out to me. One is kind of like almost the mental escape, the things that it can do for you mentally too. Because obviously there's the physical component. People start to realize, you were putting on muscle mass and you were starting to transform your body. But you talk about too, like going through, or growing up in a place where maybe there was crime or just some chaos, that it allowed you to kind of escape mentally and just have a clearer mind as you approached your day. I think that's a piece of fitness and health and wellness that a lot of people don't always think of initially, but they certainly will realize it once they, step into that realm. And I think that's something super important to definitely touch on.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Sorry, just cover that last bit again. I'm just want to kickstart my brain.
No, for sure. I think, yeah, my bigger point was that I think a lot of people, when they think about fitness, and you touched on this, which I was excited to hear you say, is they think about all the physical benefits and, what your body will look like and different things that will happen to you physically. But also, like you were saying, it allows you to go into life, into your day with a different mindset, a different clarity mentally, that you're able to kind of approach each day and opportunity with when you have fitness as a big part of your life.
Oh, absolutely. It's so incredible that these days it mentions quite heavily that movement is really important. Just get some movement.
For sure.
Um, for me, it's second nature to go to the gym now because I've been doing it for so long. So one thing I tell people is to not wait for motivation to come.
Hmm.
Uh, you need to do it, and then you get motivation. It's like train first, motivation comes after. Don't wait for motivation. If you wait for the stars to align and for the sun to pierce through the clouds and shine on your head, it's not going to be that every day, unfortunately. You need to do it first. And sometimes it's just breaking out that cycle. You know,
Yes.
you might have so much things going on in your life, and it's like trying to find the mental agility to get up and get moving. But I think once you just understand it is important, just get moving, and then you'll start to get some kind of cognitive clearance. Then
Sure.
you'll start to think a lot more clearer. But yeah, there is definitely a very strong connection between physical training and any kind of like mental happiness. You know, there's lots of chemical movement in your neurotransmitters, in your hormones, the moment you get some good movement going on. If you could do resistance training, then that's a fantastic thing. Some people look at lifting weights as a way of aiming for a goal of being a bodybuilder, and they're like, no, no, I don't want to be a bodybuilder. But it's not that. I mean, if you want to try to craft some sort of aesthetic goal, then that can be it as well. But once you start to lift some weights, just get the weights moving. You will just feel different. Life will seem so much more different just through lifting weights alone. And if you can see the physical changes that comes with it, that's just an added bonus in all fairness. But yeah, it's they do work in congruency with each other. And if you can also tailor a good diet along with that, then a lot of magic starts to happen along with it.
I love that. I love that. Continuing on in your story, you said that's kind of how you got into the health and fitness world. You started running, you started doing these things, and then you incorporated weights with it. At what point in your life did you make that transition to go into bodybuilding a little bit more seriously, and then ultimately compete and have a lot of success in the sport?
Um, I was actually quite late in it, really, because I had always trained for myself. I just had this personal goal of mine, and it was probably, you know, lots of people say that those who get into weightlifting or bodybuilding have got some kind of um, trauma which they had been going through, which got them into it in the first place. And I think for me was, you know, I lived with an abusive alcoholic father, and lifting weights was a bit of escape for me as well as a personal goal. And it helped me to feel a bit better. But I ran away from home at 17 and I was homeless. But I managed to get out of that situation, and lifting weights was always something that made me feel better about myself. I thought to myself, even if I'm not in the best situation of my life, I can always just lift weights. I was lucky in a sense that when I managed to get myself out of homelessness, my sister worked in a leisure center, and she gave me a free membership, which was like gold to me. She gave me a free membership. She managed to key me in on the system, and she was like, "Okay, don't tell anyone." So I managed to train in a gym for free as a
Wow.
teen. That was that was like, I don't know, like for me that was everything, because I didn't have much. You know, I didn't have much money. I didn't have even much of a vision as to where I wanted to be in life. So training, that was just second nature to me. But I just done that for me. It got to a point in life where I started to work into loads of different jobs. And one day, um, I used to subscribe to Men's Health magazine. And one day I was leaving the house to go to work, and my new subscription from Men's Health came through the post, and I was flicking through the pages. And when I had finished with it, I placed it down on the table. And when I was about to leave, I looked on the front cover of the magazine, and I saw a guy there that to me looked very average. And I picked it up and I looked at it and I thought, I subscribe to this magazine every single month for motivation, for drive, something to get me going, something new to learn. And I thought to myself, I've been training for so many years and I think I look all right. How is it this guy who looks so average is on the front cover of the magazine and I'm not? So I thought maybe I'm just being a bit big-headed here. Maybe I don't look that good. So I started to ask some friends of mine. I remember taking it to work and showing some people at work, and they're like, "You look better than this guy." And I was like, "Are you sure?" Because he's on the front cover of Men's Health magazine. They're like, "No, you definitely look better than him." So I spoke to some other friends. I showed them the magazine because I was like, I just don't get it. And they said, you definitely look better than this guy, but he's probably on the front cover because he's established. People know about him. Nobody knows who you are. So I was like, how can people get to know me then? So they said, well, maybe you need to do some photo shoots and maybe you need to maybe contact the magazine so that they know who you are. So I decided to go for a photo shoot and just get some images. My posing was totally awkward. I didn't know how to pose for shit. But the photographers was very helpful and they showed me what I needed to do. And they said that, you know, I looked really good. With these images, I submitted to some magazines. Let me just switch that off. I submitted to some magazines and I received a response from Men's Health magazine.
Wow.
And they actually phoned me. They actually phoned me. They called me up and they said, thank you so much for submitting your images. You have an incredible body. However, the sort of body we are looking for is a bit more obtainable. So unfortunately, you was not successful in getting on the front cover. But thank you anyway. And I just didn't know how to take that. I was like, well, wow, that they phoned me. That was pretty amazing. You know, they could have just shot me an email, but they actually phoned me. But to tell me that I looked unobtainable to be on the front cover, that was kind of like a little bit of a boost and a disappointment. I
Right.
had mixed feelings about it. So I was like, well, if I'm too good for the front of Men's Health magazine, what can I do with this body? So I'd spoken to some photographers and they said to me, well, why don't you consider doing some competitions? So I decided to have a look. Actually, before I decided to have a look, I'd already been watching lots of Mr. Olympia um, um, uh, competitions on tapes, videotapes. This was before DVDs. And I was like, well, look, I look good, but I don't look that good. I'm never going to be able to compete against guys like that unless I was to decide to start taking performance enhancers, which I am not going to do. And they said, no, there's other types of competitions which are out there. You don't have to do that. There's natural shows. And I was like, really? I didn't even know that existed. So I was given a few names and I decided to do a little Google search on it. And I came across one show called Fame UK, which was like a kind of, it was like a fitness model type of show where you just needed to have a kind of commercial look and know how to present yourself on stage and have a good looking body. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go for this competition. But it was kind of like later on in the year, but I wanted something a little bit sooner. And there was something else called Mr. UK, which was more of a kind of male beauty pageant. But I thought, you know what? F it. I'm just going to go for it. So I went for this competition and I felt quite confident at the beginning. But then during the competition, when I started to understand a bit more about it, I realized it wasn't just about how good my body looked. I needed to have like a beautiful face. And there was guys that were backstage that were putting on friggin' makeup. And I was
Wow.
like, what the hell is going on? Why do you put on makeup? they're putting on makeup, and the white guys, they were like straightening their hair and stuff, and they had highlights and that sort of thing. And I had a shaved head. This competition I done when I was 31 years old. I'm now 43. And I've shaved my head for quite a long time. And it was simply because I started shaving my head because um, when I separated from my ex used to shave my hair. But when we separated, I thought cutting my hair was too expensive, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to shave it off. That way, I don't need to pay anyone.
That's right.
And at first, it was quite frightening, but then I just got used to it, and I was like, wow, actually, I don't mind. And I just kept it up ever since. So it was like maybe somewhere in my mid 20s, I've been shaving my head, and I've just kind of kept it up. Um, but yeah, these guys, they kind of looked pretty. They was really good looking. And then I started to become a little bit concerned. And then throughout the competition, I was like, I don't know if I should have even joined this competition. But then when the judges started to call out like, third place, second place, and then the first place, the actual winner, I was, when they started to call out the third place, I was like, please, please, at least give me third place. And they called out someone else's name. And then when it came to second place, I was like, oh my God, please, second place. Maybe I've got second place. And someone else's name was called out. So in my head, I was like, shit, didn't even make third place, and definitely not second place. I can forget third place. So in my head, I'd already constructed a story that when they call the first place winner, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give them a round of applause, and that I'm going to smile and just show good sportsmanship, like, and I was already planning, I was already thinking in my head, you know what, it was taking part that counts. It's not about winning.
Hmm.
So they called the first place winner, and I started to clap, and I was like, well done, just putting on a fake smile, like, yeah, well done. And everybody was looking around, waiting for the first place to go and get their trophy. And I was looking around, and one person said to me, aren't you Roger Snipes? And I said, yeah, that's right. And they were like, well, go and get your trophy. Oh my God, that's me. What they call me? I just couldn't believe it, because I had already prepared that I lost. So I went up, and it was kind of a tear-jerking moment for me. It was like my first trophy, but at the same time, I had so many losses and downfalls in life that it was such a big thing for me. They had some kind of a small media team there that was taking pictures, and I was there with my wife, and we was both crying. I I didn't think that I was going to win. It was such an emotional moment for me. And then after winning, I was thinking to myself, maybe this is an opening for something else. Maybe the universe is trying to tell me something. Maybe there's other opportunities out there. Maybe I should try other competitions. So that's what I done. I decided to go for another competition, just anything that I could find. But there was another small show that I went for, and I ended up winning that competition. But I was like, okay, it was a small show. Let me try something else. So then I decided to go for something else called Muscle Mania, which was a natural bodybuilding show. And I didn't know anything about body. I mean, I knew about having a good body, but I didn't know anything about bodybuilding poses. And but I just thought, you know what? I've got the body for it. Let me just go for it. And decided to enroll for the competition, or register for the competition, and went in. And I think at that point it was a great turning point for me, because there was a supplement brand that was actually looking to sponsor someone in the show, and they were sitting in the audience. And actually, forget the audience; they were actually backstage before I even competed. They actually came to me and they said, "We'd like to talk to you about sponsorship." And I was like, "Really? Like what brand are you?" And they said, "PhD Nutrition." And PhD Nutrition in the UK at the time was one of the biggest brands that was available. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. just showing up, I've been offered sponsorship and I haven't even gone on the stage yet. So for me, that was just such a big deal. Anyway, I went on the stage and I ended up winning my class, but I didn't win the overall. So I didn't get like a pro card, but I did win my category. So I was really happy about that. I was invited to compete in the championship final later on in the year. And I just thought, maybe I can do this. I've won 3 shows so far. I've been given sponsorship. This must mean something. This has got to mean something. So PhD Nutrition, they said to me that there's going to be a big expo coming up, and they would like to be me to be present at this expo. This expo was called Body Power, and it's a pretty big expo in the UK. Well, it used to be anyway. At the time, there was probably about 85,000 people that would attend this expo, and I
Wow.
would be standing on their stand representing their brand. So they sent me an email when I was on holiday saying that they'd like me to. Sorry, what was that?
It was my Siri. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, okay. So they said they'd like me to attend and that they will pay me for my time to be there, and they will put me up in a hotel, and all I'd need to do is take pictures with people. I was like, I can't believe this. Really? I was in total shock. I was like, do you know what? The universe wants this to happen. So, I attended this expo and I had random people coming up to me, taking pictures of me, and it was a really good expo. And then after that, the PhD said to me, "We'd like you to write a fitness article for a magazine that we are working with." And that magazine was Men's Health Magazine.
Wow.
Muscle and Fitness magazine, and it was a ton of other magazines as well. There was a magazine for Holland and Barrett. That's pretty big in UK. I don't know what it's like in the States, but there was another one called Ultra Fit magazine and many others. So I was writing articles and going for photo shoots as well, and my image started to appear in all these magazines. And when that started to happen, before I even had Instagram or a Facebook fan page, I just had a Facebook profile. I started to get lots and lots of friend requests from people that I didn't know. I only used Facebook for friends and family. I was very private, and I just kept it for friends and family. And then I started to get friend requests from people that I didn't know, and I was looking at these random names. I'm like, who are these people? So I would DM them saying, you sent me a friend request, but I don't know you. And they said, well, I'm your fan. And I was like, fan of what? What do you mean fan? And they're like, oh, I'm your fan. I've seen you in a magazine. I was like, yeah, I was in a magazine, but I'm not famous to have fans. This doesn't make sense. And they were like, "Oh, I'm your big fan," and all this sort of stuff. And it was just so weird to me. So I was getting more and more friend requests, and I was DMing all of these people saying, "Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?" And they were all saying, "I'm your fan." So when I started to speak to friends, saying I was getting friend requests from people that saying that they're my fans, I don't get it. And they were like, "You're starting to get fans now." And it was still just so, so strange to me. But I was like, you know what? Let me just accept these people on my private profile as my fans. So it started to grow and grow and grow. And I was like, what does this mean? What do I do with these fans? Maybe I could do something with it. And then from there, I thought, okay, maybe I should just create a fan page. I created a Facebook fan page, and I tried to get these fans to go over to the fan page, but they refused to go. They were like, it's more personal if it's on your profile. I was like, oh, really? I've created this page and no one would follow it. Nobody would like it. So I discovered from someone else who had a fan page, they said what they done was they converted their profile into a fan page.
Hmm.
So I thought, okay, maybe that's what I'll do then. So I deleted the fan page. I converted my profile into a fan page, and then I created another profile again. So that way it started off at about, because I had my friends list reached its full capacity, and then I had these extra followers that was on there because I couldn't accept any more requests, and it turned out that I had about 18,000 followers and friends that was converted to fans, and I was like, wow, okay, okay. And then and then I started to work with lots of other brands because they really liked the way I look. And I think the biggest turning point for me was when I was working with a company called Body Engineers. It's owned by a guy called Tavi Castro. It's a clothing company, a Dutch clothing company, and they were massive at one point. And just being associated with them would gain you just like thousands of new followers. So I met the owner um, in a competition when I was competing for Muscle Mania. When I became a pro and I started to kind of represent the pros, he competed for Muscle Mania, and I basically showed him some love. I was like, dude, you look great. I think I can see you going places. And he was actually developing a clothing brand at the same time. And it was such a beautiful coincidence because um, his clothing brand was really blowing up, and he was gaining so many thousands of followers. I was way behind, and still am. But as that started to grow, he said, I'd like you to be a part of this. And then when he allowed me to join the team, that's when I started to see my followers really skyrocket. And and then I started to work with his clothing brand as well in and going to different expos in different parts of the world. Things like FIBO. Do you know FIBO?
It sounds familiar.
FIBO is probably the world's biggest expo. Maybe about 150,000 people attend that
Wow.
expo. It takes place in Germany. So many companies go there. And yes, I was attending that body power. I was going to like loads of different expos and just meeting so many new people. But yeah, it started to grow and grow from there, basically.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. That's a cool story, and it's cool to see the progression and all that stuff obviously doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, but the success and the hard work you put in allowed you to continue to, have people that believed in you and wanted to learn more from you and take note of, all the things that you were doing personally that set you up for success. And that's a big thing that I kind of want to cover next in this episode is, you've taken the time to write your own book, which is incredible in itself. But you talk about your mind building your body is the name of the book, and I would love to hear a little bit more about that and why you wrote that book, and obviously as you started to gain that following, those people that were supporting you, why you would put out a book in the first place to educate your audience on those topics.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Thank you. I think I was kind of lucky, really. I was in the right place at the right time when it came to the book. Um, you know, Over the years, I'd accumulated quite a lot of knowledge through just trying to better myself, really. Um, Competing had been great. I enjoyed it. And then I thought to myself, I done one competition. My last competition was in Vegas, and I came second in as a muscle model for WBFF. And I thought, do you know what? It's been good. That's it. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I mainly got into competing just to see whether I could if the world saw value in the body that I would present to them. And I'd won lots of trophies over the years. And I thought, do you know what? That's good enough. I've proved my point now. And I thought, what else can I do along my journey? Because it's not just about competing. And I decided to take it back again and think, well, my the beginning of my journey was about fitness. Although it was about, sprinting to see how good I can get, I was always fascinated with how fit I can get, pushing my body to the boundaries, how fast I can get, what sort of foods made me feel stronger or weaker. And with that, this is what sort of led me into um, trying to understand, okay, what is my body fully capable of? And I decided to do a DNA test in around just after finishing competing. And this DNA test actually showed just different things about my genetics, such as my power to endurance ratio. So what is the best type of training to get the most effective outcome? Because I used to sprint, I used to do a lot of high repetitions. But then after doing the DNA test, I learned that I should actually maybe reduce the amount of repetitions and increase the amount of weight which I was pushing. And that's the reason why to this day, I actually push a lot more heavier than I used to. But anyway, I'd done the DNA test, and then I thought, what other tests are there out there? I started to look at food intolerance tests to see what foods my body doesn't respond too well to. And then I thought, let me just take it a little further. And I done a microbiome test. A microbiome test basically lets you know what types of foods can help you thrive as well as what you might be intolerant to. What types of foods could be your individual superfood. Everyone's talking about superfoods, this, superfoods, that, but like one person's superfoods can be another person's kryptonite. There's not like one superfood for everyone. So I started to learn a bit more about other types of foods that would help to feed my gut bacteria to help me to thrive, and more foods that will just help me to be a bit more energetic. So I started to look at also hormones, like what's my hormone profile looking like? Whether it's my thyroid, my testosterone, estrogen, just everything across the board, and what types of foods to help me to make sure that everything was balanced. I started to look into other types of health practices on just like things that can help to improve my sleep and circadian rhythm, like using red light therapy or using infrared saunas, oxygen hyperbaric chamber therapy, oxygen hyperbaric therapy, and there's many other types of biohacks. So, I just done this just for me, not to sell it to anyone, just to see how I could just self-develop and improve myself physically. And with doing this, I really had to push myself to do it because life has so many different things that pushes you, and just you may not feel motivated to do stuff every day, but it's like you have to have a vision as to where you want to be and to just push yourself to get there. And there's been lots of challenges along the way. I've been in some crappy relationships, some really terrible financial situations, and just even from childhood to where I am as an adult, there'd been lots of twists and turns which had required me to have very strong mental agility and emotional intelligence as well. And this came from reading lots of books. So what brought me to the book? One day I was going for a spa session with a friend of mine who brought along some other people with him. And I was talking to one of the guys that was there, who just asked me, what's your story? Like, what got you into fitness? And I started to tell him about my childhood, just like as we done here. But I went a bit more into depth about a lot of the things that I had to endure as a child, going through lots of emotional stress when I lived with my dad, who is an alcoholic.
Hmm.
He was, I used to get beaten quite a lot. And my dad used to say to me a lot of things that I just gave me emotional stress. That's what led me to run away from home. And I didn't really see much into it, but despite that situation, I managed to make a bit of a U-turn in my life. And he said to me, "Wow, this is a great story. Have you considered writing a book?" And I was like, loads of people have been through this sort of stuff. Like, like who would be interested in hearing that from me? And he was like, thousands of people. And this is the reason why you have lots of people following you, because they are motivated. And I was like, well, where would I start with writing a book? And he said, well, I just so happen to be a publisher. I can help you with that. I was
Wow.
like, oh my God. So from there, he invited me to come to his office, where he had his whole team there, the whole PR team and everything, and we started to brainstorm about what could be in the book to help to change people's lives. And one of the concepts that just kept coming up in different ways was that one of the things that got me through many things, from the sprinting through the whole bodybuilding, and just through life itself, was my mindset.
Hmm.
And it was understood that it's not that I knew something. Well, it wasn't just that I had a lot of knowledge. It was actually a lot of application. It was my mindset throughout the whole process, because a lot of people know what to do, but it's about actually doing it. And it
Hmm.
was my mindset throughout the process. So that's when we built up this just the whole structure of the book, that in order to build everything in your body holistically, not just physically, but holistically, even spiritual growth,
Hmm.
it starts with a mindset. So that's how we came up with the title, your mind builds your body. And it takes people from the beginning, and just kind of directs them through just the whole process of things in my life, which I had learned along the way, and a breakdown of some of the science as to why I decided to stick to certain things and what things didn't work for me along the way. And there's lots of reference points to, peer-reviewed studies on the things that I've learned, and podcasts where I've had experts that have told me certain things, which is a reason why I've decided to do it. And it's been a great success. From that, I've been able to go on to lots of other podcasts, and had some great sponsorships from it as well. It's been a beautiful thing. But it's not just about the financial gain from the book. The beautiful thing for me is knowing that I can help other people. Um, I feel as though we've all been given something. We've all been given some kind of expertise. And I was always a person who was quite reserved in just like learning stuff and just keeping it for me, like trying to just be a better person, until I learned that with this information, I can actually give something back to the world, because there's many other people who would love to know. So it's been such a beautiful journey, and there's so much more which I am learning, and I'm looking forward to sharing with the world as well.
So good, man. I love that. And I love your heart posture to serve. And I think that's a common theme with a lot of the guests we've been fortunate to have on is they're doing really cool things, but it's not only for themselves, it's to make an impact. And that's exciting. Another thing you really do touch on, and you definitely mentioned it there, but I'd love to dive a tad bit deeper, is this whole idea of biohacking, and what it truly means. You touched on a variety of things that you do, such as saunas, red light therapy, all those different things. For the listeners that are tuning in, like, could you share a little bit more about what biohacking is, from just a core basis, and then obviously kind of just the benefits of what it can truly do for your body, your mind, and your overall health?
Yeah, yeah. So biohacking, oops, sorry about that. Biohacking is biologically hacking your body to reach its most optimal state. So you may have people out there which sells diet programs, and you've even got the government guidelines on how people should eat. However, everybody needs to do many different things in order to optimize their health. And biohacking is the way forward to do that. So if you want to hack your health, uh, what you need to do is understand a bit more about yourself. You can't just go generically with a guy with a six pack and he says, I eat these foods, I train this way, I can get a six pack this way, or all these muscles. You need to understand, what is your body type? How does your body respond to different types of training?
Hmm.
So you can do a series of different tests like what I have done. And that is a form of biohacking. We're living in a day and age where there's a lot of things which has changed over the years, such as we're living in a digital age. So a lot of people are a bit more sedentary. They might sit at their laptop for work now, as opposed to uh, go into a warehouse and lift boxes, or operating machinery for 12 hours, heavy lifting. Some of that still goes on, but much of the work which is happening today doesn't necessarily require a lot of physical movement. So sometimes what we need to do is kind of claw some of the ancestral living back. And one of the things which we don't do anymore is like barefoot walking.
Hmm.
Some people might not be aware, but the earth itself has a electrical energy called EMF. We have artificial EMF and we have natural EMF, which is emitted from the ground. God or the universe is miraculous in how this was designed, because we work in congruency with the earth when we walk barefoot on the ground. Walking barefoot allows the frequency from the ground to emit and penetrate our skin into our body and reduce any kind of inflammation in our body. And it brings our body into a great state of homeostasis. With a lot of the artificial EMF which we have around us, it actually raises up the voltage in our body, which is a very destructive state. It's the voltage itself is quite carcinogenic. It causes a lot of inflammation in the body and may lead to disease in some cases.
Hmm.
Depending a lot on genetics and maybe the sort of foods we're eating with it and other lifestyle factors. But a great type of biohack is to do a bit of barefoot walking. Sometimes it's not as easily accessible for some than others. If you live near a beach, it's easy to do. If you're living in a city, it's very unlikely you're going to be walking on glass outside.
Right.
It's quite the opposite. But we do have technology now where we can actually with barefoot walking, it's known as grounding or earthing. We do have technology now which we can bring in our house and do grounding inside our house. So we have grounding mats which we can place our feet on, which reduces the inflammation in the body and helps us to heal if we just place our feet on it in the house. There's grounding bed sheets where you can lay down and sleep grounded. These sorts of things help with not just reducing inflammation, but it actually helps with circadian rhythm, helps with energy levels, helps with reducing cortisol levels, helps with just quality of sleep, deep restorative sleep. And that's just grounding alone. Going out in the sunlight, that is another type of biohacking. In some countries, it's a bit more sunny than others. So if it is less sunny, it's all the more reason to go outside and try to get as much natural sunlight as possible. If you don't have the opportunity to do that, you may be able to get some of the benefits from some of the technology which we have now, such as red light therapy. Red light is one of the light spectrums that is emitted from the sun, which is emitted during a time of the morning. So if we use some red light in the morning, if we don't go out and we have some red light in the house from red light therapy, that can help to start off our day and help to just kind of like fire off our body at like kind of like help to just start us off in the morning and help a lot of the neurochemical processes in the brain, and which then kind of because we have our brain is like an extension of our eyes are like an extension of our brain. So when the light hits our eyes and go through to the optic nerve, it then sends a message to the brain. And different lights send different messages to the brain. If we don't go out and get some sunlight, our brain starts to have a false interpretation of what time of the day it is. And because of that, that can throw off our circadian rhythm. If the circadian rhythm is off track, everything else will be off track. And, this can lead, like in worst cases, this can lead to depression. Not even worst cases, this is standard for a lot of people who just don't go outside. Lots of people have anxiety and depression simply because they don't go outside. What you would have found even throughout the whole pandemic, because a lot of people were going through depression, not only because of the BS that was on the news a lot of the time and social media, but because people were not going out and getting movement and having sunlight. There's many other types of biohacking where you can get a little bit more sciencey, such as like an oxygen hyperbaric chamber. That there is more that you can use that for a form of like optimal performance if you are in some sort of like high level sports, or you can use it as a form of treatment if you are, let's say, undergoing chemotherapy. So in whatever the situation is, if you just want to hack your health to be at its most optimal, you would do something like an oxygen hyperbaric chamber, like pushing the oxygen in your cells to really vitalize and just bring like everything in its most optimal state. You'd probably have to read a bit more into that. There's a lot more science to oxygen. There's ozone therapy, which I haven't tried yet, but cryotherapy, I do that quite regular. In some countries, cryotherapy can be free, but all you need to do is go outside. So it's cryotherapy is really good for another neurotransmitter thing. It can help with norepinephrine, which is like, it's kind of a stress hormone, but like it's said that hormetic stress is a great way to allow your body to adapt and become stronger. So it's just like weightlifting. When you go to the gym and you push weights, especially progressive overload, as you start to put a lot more stress on the muscle, you cause the muscle to create micro tears. It becomes stressed, creates micro tears. And in order to evolve, your body's like, okay, we need to adapt and evolve in this situation. So it creates more muscle in order to become stronger for the next sessions to come. So with hormetic stress, it's like if you go into a really cold condition, your body then starts to perform different things in order to become stronger in the situation. So your body may try to protect you so that you don't lose any kind of vital, don't make any vital loss like from muscles. It may break down subcutaneous fat in order to provide energy to keep you warm. So rather than losing amino acids and muscle, if you go into sub temperatures, your body will start to use subcutaneous fat to provide energy for survival. And another thing, what happens is the cold actually boosts your brown adipose tissue, which is also known as brown fat. It's a very mitochondria dense energy fat that is in the body. So the more you put yourself in a cold condition, the more you'll actually boost your mitochondria. There's so much more depth to it, but it's got so many different factors. And another thing as well is your body will start to pull nutrients to the surface of the body in order to protect you. So you will find that you will heal a lot quicker because of all the nutrients that pulled to the surface. There's so many other things. Because you burn so much, it uses so much energy. You burn so much fat in the cold. And it's funny because what a lot of people do when they go out for a jog in the cold, they will wrap up so much. And it's the complete opposite, which they should be doing. Like, go out and jog in a vest or topless if you
Yeah.
want to lose fat, you know? But, yeah, people will wrap up. But if going into cryotherapy is a great way to give yourself a lot of mental stimulation and just prepare you for the day. There's so many benefits of that, and it's another hack that you can pay for, or in some cases, if you live in a cold country like Norwegian places, you can go out and just pretty much do that for free. Cold therapy is really good as well. Cryotherapy, although you can go into like minus 95 degrees, if you was to get into a cold water, which is like 5 degrees, is actually a lot more difficult. Going in 5 degree water is actually harder than getting into minus 95 degree air. It's quite fascinating.
Makes sense.
So, but there's a lot more biohacking that you can do in order to just optimize your body and become a stronger human being. That's the whole idea, really. Just trying to make yourself robust and harder to kill.
So fascinating, dude. I really appreciate you sharing that because again, I think there's so many things out there that we as humans can continuously do to just improve ourselves, whether, like you said, be spiritually, mentally, physically, and just to have the exposure to all these different methods. I feel like right now, cold water therapy, ice baths, ice plunges, people are really kind of taking that into their routines. But all the other methods that you mentioned also are extremely helpful, very healthy, and will definitely put you in a better position as a human. So, man, this has been a really fun episode, and very grateful for your time and all the knowledge that you brought. And just want to thank you again for coming on the AIM podcast.
Oh, no worries at all. Thank you very much for the invite. I'm always happy to share lots of information. I try to give little bite-sized snippets on my social media when people, if they don't really understand too much into it, I just try to really break it down in layman terms so that they can use it for their daily life. You know, there's lots of other things that I do, such as I use crystals for different like healing energy, even the power of prayer. There's other types of biohacks like different sleeping aids that can help with optimizing sleep. And I'll just give like little bite-sized stuff so that people can just trickle it into their mind so that they can maybe think about incorporating these things in their life. So definitely check out my social media page for that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. And where can people find you? What are your social handles, and where are you putting out all this information?
I would say mainly on Instagram. Instagram, I would share it on there. I would normally copy it on Facebook and Twitter as well. I do have a podcast. It has been idle for a little while, I must admit, because I've been working on different projects, and one of them is acting. So I've been doing a lot of acting recently, which has taken up a lot of my time, especially a lot of the training which I've been doing. But yeah, I have a podcast as well, which is called The Roger Snipes Show. I have some incredible guests on there. I've got like people who are activists, even people who's been to prison. You know, they might have been to prison for like 10 or 20 years. Functional medicine doctors, naturopathic practitioners, and nutritional therapists, like people who have different areas of expertise. So it's not just a case of sharing what I know. It's about helping to share the message from other people as well, just to make sure that people are more informed and more educated. So yeah, you can check out my podcast as well. More will be coming on that channel.
Let's go, man. Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun, and it was a great to see you in Vegas. And I'm hopefully we'll get to connect again here soon in person, and maybe get a workout or some biohacking therapy sessions.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, Doug. Let's definitely catch up in the future, my friend.
Thank you.